Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? So, thank you for choosing to spend your lunchtime listening to me. Although one thing I've learned whilst being here is that you can eat all day, which is one of the reasons this is now my new favorite show. So my name's Mark Baker. I work for a company called Plainsight. We're an AI technology company, and I'm here to talk to you about how AI can help you improve your order accuracy. So let's talk about order accuracy. Does this sound familiar? It's been really interesting actually being on the booth and talking with both customers, people who use restaurants and people that run restaurants. This is a really common thread, right? Everyone has their own story about how they didn't get the order that they paid for, right? They didn't get the thing that they wanted. They didn't get bacon on their bacon cheeseburger, or they didn't get the blue cheese dressing or ranch dressing with their chicken wings. And it's frustrating, right? It creates a poor experience. And when we started the company, we're a company actually of engineers that work with scale solutions, mainly from a background of infrastructure, but increasingly, of course, AI. We thought, well, this is an interesting problem that we can try and tackle using a combination of artificial intelligence and infrastructure. So how do we fix this, right? How do we improve order accuracy using technology? Well, what we quickly learned is that actually the problem goes throughout the kitchen, right? So even if you're fixing things at a QA level, so you know that you've got all the right components, getting them into the bag, right? And getting the delivery driver to pick up the correct bag is still a challenge. And this is often where the systems break, right? If you're if you're a QSR, you have multiple restaurants, you'll know that this is a problem. Right? You'll see it on your bottom line, right? You'll know that, pick your own number, 8%, 12%, but, what is good? If you're getting below 5%, you're getting really accurate, but it's still impacting your bottom line because it's between, $8, $15, depends on your kind of average ticket value, but what's the cost of remaking that? It's significant. And here's the thing, customers are really unforgiving, right? We've been doing some research, interviewing people in Washington and Chicago over the last few weeks. And whilst this says, 61% of guests don't return. If you get it wrong, they don't return, and they'll never tell you. Our experience of surveying customers is that maybe you'll get 2 chances to get it wrong. If you're lucky, they'll go back perhaps to a different branch of the same chain and see if that's doing better. But a lot of the time, they'll go to a competitor. So let's talk about AI. It's great to see lots of AI across the show, right? AI everywhere, right? Everybody's a fan of AI. But to try and solve this problem, right? A lot of vendors, they lead with, we can use AI to predict demand. We can do like fancy robots that are doing things, flipping burgers and stuff. It's good fun to see. And that may help your business. I don't want to be sort of judgmental on that. Voice ordering agents, those kind of things, all good use cases. But they're not going to help you solve this problem, right? How do you improve order accuracy? What you really need is data. It's the old statement, I don't know if it was Drucker or Deming that said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So what you need to be able to do is to get data around your systems, your processes in the kitchen. Do the orders go out correctly? Is the kitchen falling behind? Why is it falling behind? Which station's the bottleneck? Are brands' quality standards consistent, right? Are we meeting the right standards? Did the driver get the right bag? Or how long have cars been waiting in the drive-through line? These are all problems, like when we can see them with our eyes, we know the answer. But we can't be everywhere all the time, which is where Vision AI can help. Where we see problems occurring, and I'd love to get your feedback on this, and perhaps you can talk after it, is one in prep. It gets built wrong. The bacon gets left off the bacon cheeseburger, or the cheese gets added to an order where it explicitly says no cheese. It gets built wrong. It gets built late, right? Peak time puts pressure, you know better than me, peak time puts pressure on the line. And so you have, operators under pressure will take shortcuts. and one part of the line will get behind, puts pressure on everybody, right? And so the mistakes start to creep in, quality drifts start to creep in too. And then in the handoff, ticket gets attached to the wrong bag gets put onto the wrong shelf, wrong drink gets put in the bag, etc., etc. Again, you know better than me. All of this is expensive. Expensive because you may need to refund, you may need to issue credits. Expensive because increasingly, and hearing this on the booth has been really interesting, customers just go, I'll do a credit card chargeback, right? Because it's too much stress to call whoever it is. I'm not going to do it. Credit card chargeback and let them figure it out, right? Super expensive for you. Don't want to get involved in that. Taking all of this into account, it's like 3 to 5 times more expensive to deal with a problem than it was just to get it right. But here's the thing, that's not even the biggest cost, right? The cost is people not coming to your restaurant because they've had a bad experience. And so, a 45 point swing driven entirely by getting the order right. Am I likely to go back? Get it right, I am. Get it wrong, I'm much less likely to do that, right? So we've worked with restaurants and they talk about the lifetime customer value. Really important. It's harder to win customers than it is to keep them. Easy to lose them. So you don't want to be having to attract them back into your restaurant after a problem. And then finally, it's expensive, right? If you're making mistakes, these are all just multiplication challenges, right? But if you're making mistakes, if you've got like 100 stores, based on that, even a 5% accuracy issue rate, which would be good, only 5%, it's still potentially costing you close to $10 million. If you've got 2,000 plus stores, restaurants around the globe, some of the folks that we've been talking to this week certainly are in that scale. I mean, it's huge. But there you measure, what's the cost of getting a 1-star difference on a review score, right? How does that drag you down? So let's talk about some of the work we have done. So we were working with a healthy eating QSR. I can't say who it is. You can have your own guess. But there was very much the same problem. You'd have a manual end-of-line check. For some people, that would take 25 seconds. Some of the operators would do it in 12 seconds, right? During peak times. When we'd analyze the video of people performing these checks manually with the management, they would openly say, that's not done right? So they were inconsistent, different levels of quality. In peak periods, sometimes they skip the check altogether, right? Because it was just, the pressure was on, make the order, get it out, make the order, get it out. And then of course, errors, often for collection, right? Customers would go and collect the bag with their order in it. It's only when they'd get back to their desk or back to their office or back to the park, wherever they're choosing to eat it, they'd realize that it was missing the dressing, or it had the wrong protein, or it didn't have the modification that they'd ordered, right? By that point, they're just like, whatever. They're annoyed at that point, right? And so hard to fix after the event. So we developed a solution with this QSR where we use cameras over the bill station and the QS station. And we analyze the ingredients that were going in. This is a machine learning problem. So we're using different models with the input from the camera and train that to be able to identify cucumber, lettuce, tomato, as we say in the UK, or tomato, chicken, whatever it may be, and refine that over time. Such that then we can compare it against the order. In this example, we compared it against a written order chit, which would use optical character recognition to read the chit, understand is that what's in the bowl, and determine is this good or is it bad, right? Does it have what it's needed? Does it not? Against the ticket. But we're also exploring actually with them how we integrate with their KDS, their point of sale system and kitchen display system, so that we can understand, okay, how does this order match against what's actually being prepared? the outcome of that is that we improved order accuracy. Actually, the initial outcome of that, the initial benefit, was that we were able to give the leadership data on how accurate their orders are, right? Because previously they didn't have that data. And that in itself is very useful. But then we will also be able to improve it, because we would very simply just flash red or green, right? Green is good, green is go, now you have all the ingredients, it matches the ticket, off you go. And that meant fewer refunds, fewer mistakes, a better customer experience for people. From a machine learning perspective, and I know a gentleman here I was talking to at the beginning who's a AI enthusiast, it's a really interesting challenge. So being able to understand or detect the difference between cucumber, avocado, and lettuce is a pretty challenging problem, right, from a machine learning. And so we need some pretty good cameras, and we need a server that can perform the inference. But actually, it's not very expensive. The investment required. These are fairly commodity cameras, $200 or $300 each. Server, not terribly expensive, to be able to perform this inference. With this, we got it down to about 3 seconds to perform the checks. So by building and then building a salad and then placing it under a QS station, we could perform the quality control check. It was taking about 3 seconds to do that. And that was versus 10 seconds at the best case for a manual check, typically kind of 15 to 20 seconds for a regular manual check on those things. And so that was a net positive result for that restaurant, delivering better quality experience, delivering better quality outcomes for them. So let's see a demo in action. This is a video, obviously, but it's a video of the demo that we're showing on our booth, which is 8637. You're welcome to come and see it. This was actually shot in the lab a few days before the show, whilst we're getting it all set up. But you can come see the demo for live on our booth. If I click and cross my fingers, hopefully the video will play. It does have a little bit of lag, because we didn't know quite if it was going to start off. There we go. We going? Oh yeah, we're going. So this shows a box. You'll see that we have this green box that's around the food box. That's what we call a bounding box. That means that the box has been identified, and we know that this is a box that we need to look into. We're starting to obviously add the ingredients into the box, and the ingredients then, as we go to the QC station, the ingredients that we put into the box should match what is on the ticket here. And you'll see on the right-hand side, we have the to-go box. This was for a steak sandwich, I guess. So we have steak, lettuce, and peas. We've matched all those items, so we're complete. If we'd put the wrong protein in, so we put chicken instead of steak, we would have got an error there. I'd love to show you that on the booth if you want to come and take a look at it. But it's very, very simple. This is just a demo, like a very simple interface. For the actual customer that we worked with in a salad example, we had I was going to say fancier, but it was a similar simple interface that just showed, yes, green for good and red for bad. And you see cam 1, cam 2. The interesting thing is that here is that we're detecting the food under camera 1, and that's carrying across into camera 2. So even as the bread is added, which obviously occludes the view, right? Obscures the view, you can't see it. We know that there's steak underneath that because we've seen that in camera 1. And so it's carrying across. This is let's say, relatively simple example with 2 cameras. We could have multiple cameras, 3 plus or 4, whatever you want it to be. So again, it's been very interesting this week. The questions that we keep getting asked. It's like, well, this is really good. How much does it cost? How long does it take to build? And we can get going with you, typically within about 30 days. It depends if you have the cameras or not, and depends if what kind of infrastructure you have in the restaurant. But if we're working in a test kitchen, for example, and you already have cameras that we can hook into, yeah, 30 days is well within reach. And that includes site survey and install, that baseline visibility, identifying the failure patterns and the things that you want to be able to detect. That includes building the models. So we have models for doing burgers and salads and different pieces, but we'll need to develop and train the models to identify the items and the food that you want to be able to do. And especially in conjunction with what you have. So again, our experience is that people have different styles of build lines. So that means how many cameras do you need, right? Typically, what's the lighting in there? Are we going to have cameras on the ceiling? Are we going to have cameras mounted so they're like whatever, a couple of meters above the build station? How's that going to work? So all of those are, and what's the lighting look like? All of those things need to be taken into account when we're building the model to ensure that we can get the accuracy. But that actually is a relatively quick process. We can film operators doing it and learn through that way. And then improve the model as we go. When we build what we call a Vision AI pipeline, in conjunction, we build a benchmark. So we know what perfect looks like. And then we'll continue to improve the model that we're working with you to ensure that we're getting the levels of accuracy. Again, experiences when you do this, one, all kitchens, whilst they are the same, they're slightly different. They're slightly chaotic environments. And they vary in the sense of a kitchen in Texas may have different characteristics to a kitchen in New York just because of daylight and the time of year and brightness and those kind of things. So all those things need to be taken into account, but we're now getting pretty good at being able to accelerate that so we can deliver workable models within that 30-day period. But here's the good thing. We've started with order accuracy, but we build a Vision AI platform that you can train to address multiple use cases. And so whilst we're dealing with order accuracy, once we've got that basic infrastructure in place, we can start to explore other use cases. The one that's been actually most interesting at this event this week has been the inventory management. So back of house inventory management. And that's pointing cameras at your shelves and at your tubs and your bins to try and get better data around what the stock levels look like. And so we're able to do quite a bit of that too. But we've also worked with companies on PPE and uniform compliance. Do people have the right PPE in place? What do customer flows look like, right? Analyzing people going through environments. Pick up shelf dwell time, that's also a big one that we've been involved in too. So how long is something sitting on the shelf? Because it's hard, again, for operators to know that hasn't been picked up for 45 minutes, or the driver's come in and is waiting so they can take 3 items instead of just taking the one because it's more advantageous for them. Those are all data points that we can help link to. So as I said, there's lots of AI out here on the floor. It's really good. But a lot of those are point solutions. So the AI for taking reservations, the AI for maybe back of house inventory control. The difference that we provide with Plainsight is that we're fundamentally a Vision AI platform that you can apply to multiple use cases. It's all a question of training and then working with you to ensure that we can fit those models into your operating environment. Those point solutions, I was talking to a big QSR customer just yesterday. They're saying that they've evaluated 6 different solutions to AI solutions for different parts of their business. Each one on its own looks pretty good, but they know that creates an integration problem, and they being able to integrate that and get data consistently across all of it is a real challenge. And so we were able to offer a single solution that, yes, we'll need to do a little bit of training, but we're getting really good at that by working with a number of customers to help do it. So my ask of you is like, be the person that solved it, right? It's interesting, Domino's example, public example, spent a lot of money, right? Big company with a lot of money, spent a lot of money trying to figure this out and do it. Because they have a lot of money, they can do that. We've been taking the other approach, right? Is build a platform that uses commodity hardware, that uses readily available models that we help train and refine to address those solutions. And don't be scared, right? Whilst I've mentioned models and AI, and it can be a confusing area, it's actually not. It's pretty straightforward. And we're here to help you make it super simple. So using, say, commodity hardware, any station, as you say, come to the booth and we'll show you how we're doing it in this environment, which is possibly the most alien environment with bright lights and different people and shadows. So we can absolutely show you that. We also have, you see there should be a card on the chair there. If you can take a look at that. There should be a QR code. If there's not, there's certainly one on the booth that will show, if you input some data, we can show you kind of how much money we could save or the kind of typical environment that we could expect to get going with that. So I'm going to stop there, say thank you very much, and just leave you with this one. So these kind of 3 reminders. If you already have cameras, we can probably use those today. Depends on the use case, but we can already use those today. We can help you quantify. Like I said, the QSR that we were working with, the initial most interesting point was it gave them data around their accuracy, data they didn't previously have. And actually, I think a lot of the time, although they probably wouldn't admit this, didn't want to go too deep into that because it scared them, right? And you, in the audience, you can be the people that solve it, right? That provide a solution. Again, talking to some of the integrators out there, they know this is an issue, but they know it's a big challenge. So using combinations of technologies with Plainsight, we can definitely help you solve that problem. I think we're in a place where we can take some questions. Is that correct? Anyone has a question? About vision AI, order accuracy, Premier League soccer, rugby. I'll talk about anything. As a company, despite my English accent, we're a US-based company. We're headquartered in Florida. We have a lab in Seattle and engineers across the States and in Brazil. So, yes?
Do you have any competitors in the space and other people that are doing this as well?
So there are definitely companies that are trying to address parts of, use vision AI to address point solutions within a restaurant, right? So again, I mean, take a walk around. You'll see that there are people using AI at point of sale systems or for, say, automated reservations and those kind of things. All good stuff. Because we're a platform, we can address multiple use cases with a single environment through CLI, API, a portal, lots of different ways of doing it. So I don't know if there's anyone immediately equivalent to us, but happy to be corrected. Any other questions? In that case, thank you very much. I'll be around here if anyone wants to grab me privately, but please do come to the booth, and thank you.